And we're back. It's COMP1073. It's week 6, part 2 of our broadcast. And so I had a question actually at the break, which is kind of interesting. One of them was, well, it's not working anymore, right? That's the question that kind of came up. It's not working. And I asked, what do you mean it's not working, right? When they said is like, let's say, for example, I want to inject some inner HTML somewhere, right? Like an example would be this. If I look at my index.html page, I have my nav bar up here, right? Here's my nav bar. And it's so far it says that my class active is on my about me page. So theoretically, this page that we're doing right here is about me, right? My index.html or my about page. And my maybe about me is my landing page for my mini portfolio site. Let us create a few extra pages, right, based on my index.html, make copies of them, and we'll change the content. So only the contact form has the form, and my about page and my projects page have different data on it, right? Just to kind of show you assignment number 1. Kind of go back to assignment number 1 for a second. So the quick way to do that is right-click here, and I want to copy, and I want to go into here, and I want to paste it, right? I want to kind of paste in here again, the same place, and I paste it another time. There we go. So I got a couple of index 1 to index 2. I'm here in Visual Studio Code on Windows, rename, and we'll call this project. I think we would say projects would be the second page, right? So projects. And just to check that out, here's my projects page. So here's my nav bar, right? And here's projects, right? And the next one would be the contact. So I'll say right-click, rename. We'll say contact.html. So it's contact. Let's fix up our nav bar so that it works properly. So our nav bar for my contact me page, that's going to be the active link. It's going to show the active link. So I'm going to choose this. So I'm going to kind of cut. And in my list item here, I'm going to paste my nav bar. There it is. So that's my active link. My active link will change to my contact page. And let's change my links here to read properly. So it'll be like contact.html, right? And this one would be projects.html. And my about me is my main landing page. So that'll be my index.html, right? And I need to make these changes for the other pages too, right? Because the nav bar is going to change every time. So got to go here, and this is the long way of doing it, by the way. A short way of doing it too, by copying and pasting. But my index is correct here, but this is going to be index.html. And this is going to be my projects.html. And watch, just follow me here while I do this a couple times, and then we'll be all good. Contact.html. There we go. And then I'll go into my, did we do projects yet? We did not. So here's my projects. I got to change my active class. Here's my active. So copy this one and put it under my projects. There it is. And then, again, it'll be the same thing, index.html. And this will be my projects.html, which will be highlighted this time. And this will be contact.html. Yay. And let's save all. So file, save all. Good, good, good. And in my, just to be clear, in my index.html shouldn't have my form. So let's get rid of this this form, this big form we just made, this whole thing. Oops. I want to get rid of it, right? Because I don't need it all. I don't need all this stuff, right? I need my welcome to lesson 6. That's cool. But my row and my form here, as an example, up to maybe down here, I don't need. So let's get rid of that. So from line 49 on. And I have a div tag that's floating. I don't need that one either. There we go. That's what my index.html looks like. And my projects, right, that doesn't need the form either. So let's get rid of that because we have a form in there too. So the sole container, fluid main, underneath my div tag here, let's get rid of all that stuff up to the div tag. And my project, this should say, my H1 tag should say projects. My project page, let's say, project page. And we'll put in a paragraph tag, right, with an ID of project paragraph, just to make it so that we know what we're talking about here. There we go, empty. There's nothing inside there right now. We're going to inject code. This is what you would be asked to do next week anyway, right? For lesson number 1, you did this. You should have done it. All right, so that's 1. My index.html, same thing. I'll have a paragraph tag. with an ID of about paragraph. There we go, empty. We'll inject code in there. And we'll say, welcome to lesson 6. And maybe as a second tag, just to make it a bit different, we'll say an h2 tag that has, you know, about me. Right? Just to make a difference. And then my, that's my contact page is cool. But instead of it saying, you know, my welcome to lesson 6, like this one, we'll say contact me in the h1 tag. So a little bit different. Contact me, right? And maybe even in my title bar, I want to make that change. So COMP1073 lesson 6. This is my contact page, and under the project page, this is the projects page. Just to be, you know, a real niggler, right? For details, right? So projects, and this would be the about, right? This about page. There we go. All right, so we'll save all, and we'll go back to our document and see what it looks like. Right? We'll refresh, and now we see about me. Notice how that's highlighted, right? And we have my projects. That's highlighted. And if I go to contact me, that's highlighted. But notice when I go to I want you to notice this on the bottom. Look, take a look at my console here, right? Watch when I click about me. How come I'm getting this uncut type error? Cannot read add event listener of null. Hello. You're going to get this error, guys, right? Why are you going to get this error? Uncut type error, right? I've got an anonymous function that's targeting line number 35 on my app.js. So if I go back to my app.js, right, and look at line 35, right, notice that it's pointing to nothing, to this, right? But what it really means is this. How can I have, do I have a check me out checkbox in my about page, in this example, or in my projects page? And the answer is no. So that means that check me out is going to be null. Let's show you that. So under my check me out, I'll say console.log. Check me out, right? If I can do that, and file, save all, and then I'm going to go back to my page to show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to refresh my page. Refresh my page. So here it says null. Look, check me out is null. In my projects, it's also null. But on my contact me page, it's connected to something. Yeah? You see that? It's the same app.js file being used by multiple pages. It's a nice idea. How do I do page detection? Does anyone have an idea of how do I do page detection? What did you do? If you finished assignment 2, how did you do page detection?
Trigger a function depending on which URL you're at, like what page you're on.
How would you do that? How would you detect what URL you're on? Yes, you could do the event listener for a document. You could. That's one way of doing it. Anyone else have any other ways? Yes. Switch statement. Okay, I like your thinking. So Ari says a switch statement might be another option. What am I switching? When I use a switch statement or an if statement, I need to have a condition to switch or listen for, right? So what would be your condition? What am I switching? File name. Okay, file name is one way of doing it, but it's hard-coded, right? File name might be different depending on the kind of on the project you're using. That's one way of doing it. I like your thinking. How would you listen for that? I'll come back to you in a second. I saw your hand. Because we need to detect different pages, right? Because if different pages have different functionality using the same app.js file, right? Oh, it's pretty complicated, right? What about another way? No. It's more complicated than my way. What about your way?
If you are going to use just simple operation, not bunch of code, we can detect if there's a checkbox exists or not, so we can understand.
We'd have to do that every time. So that's long. It means every single thing. If I have multiple paragraphs, I'd have to check for each one of those paragraphs to see if they exist. And if they don't exist, don't do the assignment, right? So that's long, right?
Check the check me out variable. If it is null, then
That's again, I would be same as what this gentleman is saying. I have to check every single one. I may have other. I have a couple more. I'm going to have a paragraph one, paragraph, an about paragraph. I'm also going to have a the project paragraph. Those two are going to be, if I try and connect to those, it's going to be different too, right? So I'm still going to have that problem, right? Your way is good, but it's more complex than my way, right? Huh?
It's 2 lines.
I know, but even so, right? People may not understand that so clearly, because remember, we haven't talked about, page detection that way, right? What about doing this? What about assigning an ID, right, to the page? Can we do that? How do I assign an ID to the page? We've done a bunch of pages already, IDs. Can I assign an ID to a page easily? Yeah. Yeah, the body ID is a great way of doing it, right? Where you put an ID to the body or an ID to a section. If you're doing if you're doing one page, right, a single page application, right? So one page has multiple pages inside of them, and all you're using it, so you're kind of, when you click on a link, it takes you down further down. Each section, right, can have its own ID, right? So if this ID is true, if it exists, right, as an example, then do this code. If it doesn't exist, do this code. If it doesn't exist, do this code, right? And you can check the ID of the body tag by saying, because especially if you structure your pages this way, if you say this, my body, var body, is equal to get element ID dot body, right? Whatever that, if it take that ID, whatever it is, right? And if that ID, whatever it's called, exists, right? Then check. It's one way of doing it. You can say if this is true. So let me just check this out and see what I'm talking about, because I'm trying to tell you without showing you. All right, so here I am on my page, right? And what I'm saying is, one way of doing it is this. In my body tag, like Ari suggested, give it an ID of something, right? And I'm going to search for it. If it doesn't exist, right, that's what I'm searching for. If it doesn't exist, then do something else. If it does, and then check the other one, right? So if I did it this way, as an easy way of doing it, if I said ID is equal to contact, right? Okay, my index page, here's my body tag. ID is equal to about, let's just say, this is my about page. And my projects, my ID is equal to projects. Okay, cool. So I've got my IDs and save all. Got 3 different pages. And again, this might be, you might say this is even more complex because I'm changing multiple pages. Each page is specific, but I have more control, as you'll see in a second. And what if one of your pages disappears? That might happen too. Let's take a look at this. So if I go back to my app.js, and now I want to say, well, I only want to do this piece if my ID is equal to contact, right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, first I'm going to set up an ID for my body. So var body is equal to document, or I could call it page. Let's call it something more likely. So page is equal to document, get element by ID, and we'll call it, and again, I'm looking for the ID itself, right? So if I look at my page is contact, right? Actually, this is, it's going to change. Well, the best way of doing it, of course, is just going into it. So I'll say if, here I'll say if, do it like this. Document get element by ID is page, if that's not null, right? So if it's about, right, is not equal to null, I do that, then do this stuff, right? So if my about page, and I can do an else if, I'm showing you different methodologies, right, for the same thing. Else if, all this stuff here, well, actually we'll get this whole piece here, why not, and copy it. Let's check out and see if it works and what problems I might have. Instead of about, my about page projects, right? And we'll do the same thing. So we'll say then do this, and then else if, do this if, else if, right? Finally, my contact form, contacts, contact, and do this. So we have a kind of a series of if statements that check what my body tag, what my, if it exists, if about exists, if my project exists, if my contact exists, right? So multiple pages, right? So I'm not really assigning a variable. I'm just checking my document, right? Every time I access it. Okay, if it's true, if this page, right, when this is loaded, and this app.js, this iffy is going to trigger every time but I only want this stuff, var check me out, to appear in my contact page. So I'm going to take this, cut it, and restructure this a little bit, put it in here. And I also want to take all this, right, this part here, cut it, and also put it in here, inside these braces, right? Now let's just get rid of all this stuff because you've seen it already, and fix any errors that I might have. Let's just make sure that I have all the braces. I have this one, I have this one, I have that one. So I'm missing a brace. Yay. I'll put that in there. There we go. And now we're getting an error with that. I'm just missing a brace somewhere. If I'm probably going to put a console log about page. We're going to see a console log with the other ones too, just to make sure that you can detect them. So copy, paste. What did I do? Undo. Copy. Let's try that again. Paste. There we go. And this will be the projects page. So it's just detecting. It's just going to spit out what it is, right? And this one here will be the about the contact page. So that we'll know where we are. I'm just going to format my code to make it easier for me to see my error. Right? So I do have an error. See this little error that comes up? It says expected comma. Right? Not equal to null, and not equal to null, not equal to null, and if, else if, and this one goes to here, that one goes to, sorry.
For the function. The add event listener function is missing. Just add one more to that.
That's the one for the add event listener.
Remember we need one for the else also? You add event else also?
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for it, but I don't think that's it. See?
Add equal variable check me out. Last also goes for the variable.
No, that should be all there. That should be all there. Right? See, now I have too many. Now it's going to give me this error right here. Oh, I know what I've done. This piece is too many. It's this. Yeah, that's it. Oh, now that's too many. It's the problem with curly braces, right? So this piece here, this piece, it stops this one, right? And now I need another curly brace for this if, like right here. There we go. Okay. And then we'll reformat everything again to make sure it's all nice. Yeah, just it's the way I copy paste. So be careful when you do that. Hey, some people what they do to avoid this problem when it comes to comments is actually put in something like this: and if. Here's this. They just put a little comment that says end add event listener. Right? And this one here would be end else if. Right? So you know which one it belongs to, right? And so on. Actually, this is end else. There we go. And this is the actual iffy, which we know, which is paired up like that. Okay, so that's one. So if things work well, if it works the way it should, and I know it's hard to see it all on one page here, but I've got an if statement that says, well, if it's this about page, say it's about page. If it's the projects page, spit out the projects page. If it's the contact page, say it's the contact page, and do all this stuff. Right? Do all this other stuff, the event listener and all this kind of stuff. So then we won't error out. If I go to the about page, this code here will never trigger, right? Because this else if will fail because it won't be equal to null. Okay, let's see if it works. Enough talk. We'll go back to page and we'll refresh, and we have a contact page. See, it came up as contact page, right? So that's good. It's detected. If I go about me. Here's my About Me page, no error. And here's my projects page, projects page. So it detects all the pages, right? And that's how you can separate your your code. You can do it that way. Now let's do it Ari's way. Ari, what was your solution? Come on down, boy. Right? We're gonna get him to come on down and do the code right here. Right? And again, see how we're doing this, right? We're talking about this as, hey, well, what's the right way? You're going to ask me, you're the professor, Tom. What's the right way? You're going to get mad at me when I tell you there's no right way, right? There's some better ways and some worse ways, but there's no right way. There's many ways to do the same thing, unfortunately, with JavaScript.
Space. So yours.
I can comment it out.
Okay, we're gonna need to
comment everything out. Okay, let's comment everything out. So we'll just do this. So we'll go through here and we'll just comment this. This is Tom's solution, right? It's a simple solution. It's not the best solution. It's just a solution, right? There it is. And now let's do Ari's solution. What's Ari's solution?
So it's a var.
Hold on. Ari's solution.
Want me to type it out?
Do it, man. Big honking pretty much of a max.
Yeah, this is not.
Go.
But,
All right, so we're not using the document anymore. We're using a location as part of our, it's built into JavaScript, right? What does the location point to?
the address. Yeah, look, you type out the address bar.
Okay, so the URL is what the
Yeah.
location is. Okay, cool. And we're going to get that every time we reload our app.js file, which will reload upon page load. Right? So once the page is done loading, we're going to load this up. There's also a very cheesy way to do this, by the way, guys. I want to tell you the cheesier way. I'll give you a cheesy solution number 3 to get this done as well, right? And you're going to hate me for it when I show you, because it's even easier than this one.
I've lost my. Oh, it's the bottom there. Last index.
La la la, big long line, and then, yeah, like I said, a little more complex. You got a bit of an error there. Index, see where it says last index up, put a bracket. There you go. Oh, you just take one out of the bracket away. There we go. And then
Switch. On the file path.
file path. And depending on what it is, case blah blah, case da 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 da. Right?
Yep. So we're gonna.
It's a lot. Okay, a lot of that. Don't worry, I got it. Come here, thank you. So this is another way to do it. So Ari, and I guess it would be Mallory, right? I think they worked this together, Mallory, or was it just Ari? He was a big help, but it's your machine, right? So I have to give Mallory some attention here, because it won't be nice to say it's all Ari, because Ari and Mallory worked on this together, right? So case, and what you put in here, by the way, is let's put these away. So I'll fix up Ari's typing, and I apologize because it's my computer and I got a bit of a keyboard thing going on, right? So we'll just fix this up to show you what he's trying to do. So he's going to say case, whatever the thing is. So for example, if it's the about, now it's just the stuff before the HTML is including the HTML. So if I go about or index, right, and then you put it in quotations, right? So if it's index, then we're going to do whatever it's going to do, right? Case if it's about, oops, if I can type. About, and then we're going to do something, right? And then if it's contact, actually no, sorry, it's projects and then contact projects, because there is no about. Index is the about, and then break, right? That's what it would be. And in here we'd have between the breaks and the case. This is a case statement, right? We'd have this stuff here, like console.log, the index page. And then console.log, the project page, kind of stuff. And then all this stuff, console.log, all this, up to the event listener, in here. That's what it would look like. So a little bit different, and I'll just reformat the page for you so you can see it. So the case statement, the switch statement, what it does is it says, hey, take a look at this file path, and this is the syntax for the file path, and it's being recorded, guys, so you don't have to remember this, right? take a look at the file path, and then switch the file path depending on what the file is, index, projects, or contact, then do some different functionality, yeah? If I don't have a default case? Probably don't, but because it won't give you an error, it just won't go anywhere, right? It's got to be one of those three, right? Otherwise, it doesn't go anywhere. So I'll save it. Let's save this thing, try it. So if I saw file, save, and if I go to my projects page and refresh, right? It's my projects page. Just hit. So it's still working. My about page and my contact page works too, right? And if you want to check to see if I'm using Ari's source and not mine, you can always go into scripts, app.js, and see that there indeed the switch statement is there, right? So I know it's your stuff that we just wrote in and not mine. Okay, one more, and then I promise we'll stop this silliness and we'll go on to more advanced stuff. But it's important because otherwise you're going to get a collision, right? Something's going to not function properly with your page if you switch it like this. One more, and this is a really simple and dumb way to do it. Okay, if you're like me, I try and keep it simple, right? All right, so this is one way we can do this. Here's Ari's solution. We'll just make this into a thing. And I'll upload this so you can see it online later on. And we'll put this in here. And here's a dumb solution. All right, like the simple solution. All right, so we've got a function. I'm going to pull this down here like this, give it some space. And we have some functions. We can make a couple functions, right? So one function could be called, and you're going to hate me for this, right? About, right? And we can have another function down here, right? Called, oops, if I can type. This function will be called, I can type function, will be called, wow, function will be called projects, right? And we can have a third one, I typed that one right, contact, right? We have my functions, 3 functions. They're just sitting here like this. Yay! Okay, cool. Well, are these functions, if whatever's in the body of these functions, will they ever be called the way I've written them? No. Right? Well, this is what we can do. And this is the cheesy way where I violate the rule I told you about last time, which is try not to use things inline, right? There's a way of doing this stuff where I can do, I'm just going to copy paste from Ari's example here to give you this last way of doing it that I can think of. There's other ways, by the way, as well. They're just a little bit more complex. They also provide more control in some ways, too. And also, there's another way of doing it, which would be to use different JavaScript files for different pages. So every page has its own JavaScript file. I don't recommend that one because that means you have to keep track of many more pages than just one, right? That's not a great solution. Put it that way. Okay, so up to there. All right, and we'll do that in there. And we'll refresh, format code, there it is. So 3 functions, about, projects, and contact. How do I get to them? File, save. And if I go to my index.html page, notice how my body ID is about. Let's just add to that. I'm not going to take it away because I want all things to function. And here's where you're going to kill me. Unload, right? The about, right? But this is the time where it makes sense, right? To do it. Unload my projects, right? Unload, when I load up my projects. Unload, right? Then load up my projects, so projects. And my index, did I do my index? Yes. Did I do my about? Contact? No. Unload, then do my contact. Now you're going to ask, do I need the semicolon? No, I don't, but it's okay to put it in. And I'll go File, Save All. And now let's check to see if this works, right? And we'll talk about the different methods. Because we're talking about events, right? This is a type of event, right, that we're using. So depending on what the event handler is calling. Okay, let's check this out. So I'm going to go back to here and refresh the page. And notice that now I have my 3 functions, so that's my source. If I go to my console, oh, I got a uncaught type error. Contact is not a function. Let's see if that is because it's not a function. Right? Maybe I made a typing error. So I'm going to go back. Let's see if that's it. So I'm going to go back to my page here, app.js, and contact is a function. right? There's about, my projects, and my contact page. And I'm calling my contact page, right? Function projects, function about, right? All of them are functions, right? So where am I going wrong, right? How come it's not working? Right, let's go back. Well, let's refresh. Well, it says contact.html, right? And let's look at my sources. So if I look at my contact.html, right, so here's my contact.html source. You can see my source is contact, right? And then I see that there is a problem with my code. Right? See how this underscore, uncaught type error, contact is not a function? Contact? How come it's not finding it here? Anybody? The DOM is not ready. That's one reason. And the other reason is because of the way I've structured my JavaScript. My JavaScript on load means as soon as this page finishes loading, load up my call my page, right? So notice at the bottom of my my page is down here on line 85, right? That's when it loads up my app.js. But I'm trying to access a function from way up here, right? Onload is equal to contact, right? It's a nice idea that I want to try and do this, right? But it won't work. And it won't work because this hasn't loaded yet. I haven't loaded up my page. This only loads, right, after my about page loads, right? So once I can't get to this, there is no function to access yet. It hasn't been written. It won't be written until I get to line 85. And line 85 won't trigger until my page loads, right? So that's why this won't work. The other way to make it work would be to put it inside the head. So I load my JavaScript in the head of my document, which I told you is not a great idea, because if the JavaScript fails, then the document won't load, right? So, but I'm showing you, if you thought this was a solution, it's the dumb way. That's why I said a dumb way of trying to do it. Nice idea, won't load unless the page loads. Okay? Because there is nothing. It won't find this when the page loads up. Yeah? You have a question?
No.
Okay. And the same thing goes for me. If I go to About Me page, my About Me page, right? If I go to my console, I get a thing that says About is not a function. About is not a function, and neither is my projects or my contact, because it doesn't exist. And it won't exist because of the way I've structured my JavaScript and my HTML. Right? So nice idea that you want to try this, won't work. Okay, so let's get rid of it. So let's go with one or the other. I'm not going to use Ari's method, although I like it, right? I do like it. My only problem with that is you trying to remember all this. Like I don't know if you'll remember all this stuff here to do this, right? I'm just saying, you probably won't remember. You can look it up.
Well, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you can look it up, but this piece here to get the file path might not be something that's memorable, right? This piece, though, down here, we do Tom's solution. I think you can figure out how to do get element by ID because you've been doing that all the time, right? All right, so this is the way I recommend for now for us for the exam for next week. All right, so if you're going to switch your stuff, we're going to do this. And just to make it easier for you guys to read, we'll just put Ari's at the bottom. I'm just going to move all this stuff to the top, and I'll upload to GitHub in a second. I like other people's solutions because just to point out that there are other solutions. There are probably 10 more solutions to do this thing. Let's see. Let's fix up our index.html because it'll fail now. All my HTML documents will still have this problem, so we'll get rid of this. And we'll get rid of this. How about making this work? What's another way to make this work? Is there another way that you could have made the function methodology work? There is a way that I can think of that you're not going to like. JavaScript down here is where it is. So see how we have our app.js? Underneath it, create another script line that does in-page JavaScript that calls the function down here after the function has been defined. Right? Don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. All right. So one of the ways that we just showed you is probably a better way than the one I'm talking about. And you don't want to you don't want to break that rule. See when I did that on load event, how it didn't fire? That anytime you do attribute type event listeners or event handlers, the same thing can happen. If it's not loaded, the page doesn't load properly, you have to wait for the page to load before JavaScript is there. And then if it doesn't load, then it's blocking the JavaScript from working. All right, file save. And I'm just going to do the GitHub upload right now. I'm just going to kind of add everything to my staging area, and I'm going to say added simple, I'll say simple page detection. That's what I'm doing here with one JavaScript file, multiple pages. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to do its thing. All right, cool. Oh, yeah, I didn't do these ones. File save out. Let's try that. A couple more changes, sorry. One more update. Updated it. Updated contact and index pages. That's it. And hit that. And push. There we go. Okay, any questions so far about what we've done? Why I've made that. So we need one more thing, a couple more things on the, I was running out of time here because there's so much to teach you guys. But if I go to my pages for a second, and if I click my contact page, which is what I've got some data coming back, right, from the checkbox, right? And I need some other data. I want to get some data back from my, let's say my email address, right? Now my email address has this example input email 1. Whew, that's pretty darn long, right? Let's change this ID a little bit shorter. So we'll call it email, and we'll call this thing password for my ID. Why not, right? Because we don't have more than one, and that's enough, right? So we have email and password, right? I'm going to save this change, so I'm going to file save, and I have hooks now. I have ways of hooking into my inputs from my. So I'm going to go back to my app.js, and I'm only going to do it in my contact form. My other stuff, I'm only going to do things when I'm in my about page or projects page. Like if I want to inject code, I can do it here. But in here is where I want to do my these events for my username and password, right? Or my email and password. So what do? Let's set up some variables. So the first thing is I want to kind of put them before because they came before. In my variable declaration, I want to say var email is equal to documents.getElement.id. We'll call that email. So I've got a link to that, right? And I'll say var password. Is it password? Password, which is equal to documents.getElement.id password. Now this is not secure, obviously, right? And there's ways of securing this information. So I've got my three. Oops. I've got my three variables that hold my three form elements. They've got all I've done here is I've created three elements. I've done an inline too. I'm going just to copy this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to update this to kind of do one of these. So they're all inline. So check me out. My email. I'm kind of doing the declaration. So I'll declare variables and create a reference to form elements, right? That's what I'm doing here. So let's not do this. I don't need to do my console.log check me out anymore. I've got my check me out event listener, and you know what? I want to get information from my when my submit. I need my submit button. Oh yeah, I forgot that one too. So here's my contact page, and under my submit button, I have my class of button, but I also want to add an ID here. So ID, right, is equal to submit button, let's say. There we are. Right, so what I want to do is this. When I click my submit button, I want to get the data from my email and from my password, right, text boxes, and push it out to the console, right? That's what I want to do. So when I click on my ID, my submit button, so I'll say var submit button is equal to document.getElementById submit button. Now you guys have seen this a bunch of times. You just used to see this methodology here. And I want to create another event listener, right? Which I'm going to do before the else if it finishes, which is in here. So check me out. This is the checkbox. It's kind of a silly checkbox, right? Checkbox event listener. That's what that is. But I want to do a submit button. I'll do it underneath the checkbox here, just to keep it in order. So I'll say submit button dot add event listener, and then I'll say on click. When I click on my submit button, right, I want to do an anonymous inline function. Right, here it is. And with my anonymous inline function, what I want to do here is I want to perform some stuff. I want to say my email dot, I want a console dot, I'll do both things. I'll say console.log email dot inner HTML, is it the value, sorry, dot value. That's what I want to do. And I want to go console.log really quickly. Password dot value. That's kind of a weird thing to do, right? Because the dot value is the value of what I enter in, okay? And I want to kind of add some additional details, like for example, something like this, email plus, right? And maybe password plus. There we go. So my event, my button, when I click my button, if it works well, I'm going to click, when I click my submit button, it's going to submit my form, right? It's going to do my form stuff, plus my submit button is going to output to my console, my email, and my password. Make sense? I'll wait till you guys can see that. Before I'm going to go back to this, let me check it and try it because we're running out of time. I'm going to try it and see if it works. Go back here, refresh. Notice that there's a contact page. We're on the contact page, which is good. Detects. And now on the element, I'm going to enter an email address. So tom@example.com. My password 12345. And then I'm going to click out check me out. I don't want to check this out, so it's unchecked. It detects that. And I click the submit button. Oh man, what happened? What happened? It worked, by the way, but what happened? I clicked the submit button, right? And the submit button did something, right? What did it do? Yeah, and it not only did redirect me, but I lost all my details, right? All the stuff that I pumped out to the console, it's gone, right? Let me show you that. Just to show you that, because you're going to get to this and you're going to say, what doesn't work? How come it doesn't work? It worked. But because in my contact.html, in my form, which I have in here, here's my form. My action is to go back to my index.html, and my method is post, right? Once I do this, these pieces here, as soon as I click my button, it's going to submit my values, and then they're going to be gone because I'm going to reload my index.html page. And when my index.html page loads, it's going to wipe away my console. That's what's going to happen. So to show you this, let's just take away my action for a second and just use the form element. And I'll save this page. And I'll go back here and do it again, right? So just by checking that one thing. So I'll refresh. My About Me page, my projects page, it detects. My contact page, here's my email, so tom@example.com, right, there it is. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I click my submit button, and it's gone. What happened? What happened? How can I stop that from happening? How can I stop my submit button from doing its default stuff? Well, I am submitting, but whenever I click the submit button, what's happening is, just to let you know the functionality, that's why I wanted you to do this exercise in the first place, right? If I go back here, notice how my button is of type submit, right? What other types could it be? Button, menu, reset, and submit. If I click button, now what's the default action of a button? There isn't any, right? So it won't submit anything. So I'll file, save. So the submit action is to reload the page to do something, right? And I'm not doing a submit action. I'm doing a button action, which is, there's no default action for the button. All right, let's go back. And refresh. And Tom. And password. And submit. Up. See that? I could. So right click, prevent default action, right? I could do that. So when I click the button, then I can prevent default my default behavior, right? All right, let's do that, and then we'll let you go. All right, so I'm going to go back, and that's the solution, right? So I'm going to go back here, change my button back to submit. And when I click the submit button, file save, when I click the submit button, go back to app.js. So when I click on it, right? Do I do it before or before I do the submit button, right? I can't do it here because it's too late, right? When I declare the submit button, I got to do something like this. Submit button dot. Where's my prevent default action? How do I do that? You know? JavaScript prevent default. Right? So whatever the event is, right? My click event, and it says event right on jQuery. We're looking for JavaScript, a JavaScript event, right? Here's my function, my event, and we're going to do the prevent default, whatever the prevent default is. But we need the event to kick off, right? So let's do that. So I'll put in the event variable. That I'll put in here like this. So basically, when I do my event, right, whatever the event is, it's here, right? So I'm going to pass in the event, right? And down here, I'm going to say event.prevent default. I believe it's one of these, right? Yes. Okay, let's try this out and see if you're right. Right? File, save. But you can also prevent right clicks and other things too if you want to try to do that way. Refresh. One more time. COMP. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll just to make a different submit. Okay. So I'd click the submit button, and just to check my sources, right? To make sure that we're getting the right source, that somehow it didn't reload. Sometimes that can happen. I'm going to click my app.js, and we can look down here, and it says, look, event prevent default. So this event prevent default, I need to pass in the event variable, and then I can use the prevent default method off the default event type for the submit button, which is to submit the page, right? And then pump up my email and password. Questions around this? Because I know there's going to be, right? Because you're going to say, is this part of my exam next week? Definitely going to be input and output in the exam, right? Because one of your assignments is all about input from users, right? The other one is output to the page, right? So there's going to be input and output, some kind of input and output. And I'm showing you some simple input and output. So this is input, right? Because what's happening is when the user changes enters his email and password, the email and password fields get something called a value, right? And all I'm doing is pumping it out to the console like I've asked you to do, right? The prevent default event can only fire if we tag it to the event variable that comes into it, like into the actual event handler, this submit button, when I click on it. And then the default event behavior for a submit button is to go to the next page. That's the default event. Just like if I click a link, the default event is to go to follow the link. I can disable the default event for a link or a button or whatever it is by using this prevent default methodology. Any questions, please, before we depart for the day, and I'll see you next week on your exam. So again, for your exam, you need GitHub, some kind of cloud that we're going to put it up to. It's going to be a piece like that. You're going to have to build one or more pages, right, that does input and output. And you've got some examples here. And I'm going to upload to GitHub. You have access, it's open book. You have access to everything we've done today. So there's nothing fancy. You just have to do what I've asked you to do on that particular day. All right? If you have a question, please email me. I'll be available definitely tomorrow I'm going to be here on campus tomorrow after 12. I'm available for consultation or some office hours. Anytime after 12, between 12 and 3 tomorrow. All right, thank you.